Hello, everybody. All right, let me get the recording going. Okay, good. We are ready. Okay. So last week I dug around and found a few idiomatic phrases in English, and I kind of got to thinking over the course of the week, I should probably put these in a little bit of a test question type of a format. So I'm going to challenge myself to do that for you guys every week. Oh gosh, I forgot one thing. I'll see if I can grab it before too long. But basically what you'll see on the exam, and where I drew this particular short little list of sayings from, is a website called donquijote.org, and I think I just looked in that website for dichos y refranes. They don't necessarily have the definitions that I was able to find, so then I had to dig around other places to figure out a good way to explain them. But what you'll see, as those of you who remember the testing experience know, is a question a little bit like what you see on the screen. So you'll see the idiom used in context, but it's usually not an obvious enough context for you to know 100% what it means. And then in the list of options, there are usually one or two that are, plausible, and the other two, they may be similar to each other, or not necessarily as plausible. But it's not like when you take sort of a beginning level Spanish class and it's pretty obvious. There's one kind of glaring answer and the rest you can just toss out. It's almost as if on these, you kind of have to just know it, which is not very helpful. The only saving grace, I think what we'll be doing weekly, where we look at a few of them and you can come back to them during the week and review them, turn them into a flashcard, that will probably be enough because there are about 5 of them on each exam. So in order to learn all of the idiomatic phrases that are out there that could be on the exam, you would have to invest hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and it's probably not worth it for just 5 questions. But it is worth it in our environment to kind of look at them and see, and sort of start adding them to your list of flashcards that you're studying. So, if you heard this phrase, al enterarse de los cargos que se le habían puesto a su abogado, el delincuente le dijo, somos tal para cual. Al enterarse de los cargos que se le habían puesto a su abogado, el delincuente le dijo, somos tal para cual. Okay? What was that delincuente trying to say? Somos iguales? Estamos endeudados el uno con el otro? Eres mi media naranja, which is something that does happen on the exam, that they'll put one idiom in the phrase and then they'll put another idiom as an option, which is what we're seeing with media naranja, and hemos pasado por la misma experiencia. What would you guys guess if this were your test question?
D.
D, posiblemente.
And I was going to guess D, although it's not a confident D.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I think A is better.
Okay, A. So we're between A and D, and we were kind of like, maybe D. All right. Any other? Oh, Maritza is surely answering, and I can't see it because I have this thing on full screen. So basically, this is a very likely scenario on the exam. Most of the phrases are going to make sense in the context, and that's what happened in the case of D. Hemos pasado por la misma experiencia. In my mind, A is closer to the meaning of somos tal para cual, because somos tal para cual is akin to saying we're two of a kind in English. It's like saying we're the same. So this is where the test gets hard because, lots of people would want to argue, but that's basically what hemos pasado por la misma experiencia is saying. We're the same. So it's like A and D could both be correct answers. And Yes, but you're tasked with choosing the best answer for that particular idiomatic phrase. And the fact of the matter is that idiomatic phrase tal para cual is used in many different contexts, not just one where people have been through the same experience. And it's the closer meaning to what it's trying to say with tal para cual is we're the same. So somos iguales. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So there's one for your flashcard pile. Let's do another one. Para terminar de escribir todos los fallos que dictamina el juez cada semana, el pasante se quema las cejas. Para terminar de escribir todos los fallos que dictamina el juez cada semana, el pasante se quema las cejas.
E.
I would say A.
Se estresa mucho. Okay. Pasa la noche en vela. B. No come o va al grano. What did you say, Priscilla?
I said B, but I think A would also. I'm unsure if it's A or B.
Okay, so we're in between A or B. All right. Se quema las cejas. One good way to study idiomatic phrases is to do, if you come across one, is to do a little bit of research on how it came to be, how it was born. Most idiomatic phrases, like the ones we'll see on the exam, are very, very, very old. So this comes from a time when there wasn't electricity. And so in order to stay up studying or stay up late at night, you'd have to have a candle. So the phrase se quema las cejas comes from the possibility of burning your eyebrows off. You might hear it as se quema las pestañas. That's the way I hear it more, but today I found it as se quema las cejas, so I thought I'd throw it out there. And it refers to the act of staying up really late. Usually
it's burning the midnight oil would be the translation, right?
Sí. Yes. Excellent. And because of that, pasar la noche en vela is a closer equivalent. It's not a perfect equivalent. It would have been better. I mean, if this were a controlled, exam, I think it would probably be better to have se queda despierto hasta muy tarde, stays up very late, or something like that as the equivalent of se quema las cejas rather than pasa la noche en vela. But just to show you how sometimes it's they use another idiom to define the first idiom, I threw that one on here. Pasar la noche en vela is like to pull an all-nighter.
And then what's el pasante?
El pasante, the clerk.
Oh, the clerk. Okay, so that's another way of saying el actuario judicial.
Yes, or it's actually more like law clerk, like
okay,
like the students that are in their final years that have their internship. So it's closer to law clerk than it is to actuario.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What's va al grano? What's that mean?
To get to the point.
Right.
Vamos al grano. We're going to get to the point.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it wouldn't work here. Se estresa mucho makes great sense in the context, but it doesn't reflect the meaning of se quema las cejas.
Okay.
So that's what you've got to be on the lookout for, are sensical answers that don't reflect the meaning. And really the only way to know the meaning is to have come across it before. So
it's because se quema las cejas, you could also think that it's like he's thinking a lot, or like it can be misinterpreted maybe like that he's thinking.
Right. So thinking like he's the gears in his brain are working so hard that they're smoking or something like that. Yes, that's what's so terrible about idiomatic phrases. So the only strategy that I can really offer you for the day of the exam is to make peace with the fact that there will be idioms on there that you don't know, especially in your weaker language, and to just roll with the punches. And remember, you are required to get a 75% on this exam, not not a 100% on this exam. So, it's kind of it's a great exercise right now, 5 months before you'll take it, to start building up your repertoire. But it's just one of those things that's a really tall mountain to climb, especially in your weaker language. And I know a lot of amazing interpreters who, even in their native language, just haven't grown up with a richness of vocabulary. So they struggle still with the meanings of dichos y refranes. And then others have grown up around people that just naturally speak this way. So they know and understand and recognize all these phrases. But really, just remember, there's only about 5 of them in each language. So it'll be okay, even if you've never heard of any of them. Okay? Okay. Next one. Ese intérprete va de punta en blanco al trabajo. Ese intérprete siempre va de punta en blanco al trabajo. This one I'd never heard of. But I thought it was a good one.
I'm going to say A, va directo, because I interpret va de punta en blanco, goes right to the heart of it. Goes right to the heart of her work or his work.
Like a target.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so A. Any other guesses?
Yes, I'm guessing A and also maybe C, but I'm not really sure. I think it's more A.
A or C? Okay, on the fence with A or C. All right. Okay, this one's actually B.
Oh my gosh.
Va bien vestido. Wow. I'm like you guys. I had no idea. I kind of thought it might be something along the lines of ir al grano, getting straight to the point, because of the target, like what you're saying. Yeah. But evidently, for what I read on the internet, it's an idiomatic phrase that comes from back in the day when we had knights in shining armor, and de punta en blanco had to do with the armor. So, and then it's over the years evolved to describe someone who goes, who is dressed to the nines, I guess.
What another way of saying that? I've heard of the idiomatic expression de perlas.
Me queda de perlas.
Me queda de perlas.
I've heard that also. And yeah, you might be right that it's often rendered as dressed to the nines. But that also might be more like it fits me to a T.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, these darn dichos y refranes. I will have a few of them for us every week, because I think it's important just to up our exposure to them. But just try to meditate on that idea that, okay, there's, no matter what, I'm going to get to this portion of the exam. And that's where your strategy can step in also. There are 200 questions on the exam, 100 in each language. I can't remember how long you get. I think it's less than 3 hours. So I think basically we have to move at a rhythm of like less than a minute per question. Well, when you're doing the reading comprehension questions, obviously you can't only look at those for 30 seconds a piece, because you have to read the entire section in order to be able to answer those precisely. So you need to make up time elsewhere. Your dichos y refranes might be a good place to make up time.
Do you know, can you tell how long you have? How much more time do they?
They didn't, when the exam was on paper, you would have to have brought a watch to know exactly how much time. And I think the proctor did used to say there are 15 minutes remaining in this exam. But on the electronic version, as I recall, there is a timer that you can see.
Okay, good.
So you can have a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Let me see here. Okay, it's still just the three of us. So I'll go ahead and keep going. We'll see if anybody else is able to join us. If not, that's fine. Like always, we have our recordings for you guys. So our agenda for tonight, as always, until the end of this month. After this month, we'll start working on building up our vocabulary and talking about word parts and using those to help us strategically unravel some of the words that could be problematic for us on the exam. But for now, we're going to continue working on grammatical questions. I know I posted this on Facebook. I think, Darcy, you saw it and were as excited as I was. But I finally found a standardized test free online that's really challenging. And it was called Test de Oposiciones. And there were a number of options in them. So what I urge you guys to do, especially those whose weaker language is Spanish, is to follow the procedure that you see on the screen when you take the challenge of taking these quizzes online. So first you need to identify, first of all, like, try to answer them, and check your work. After that, go back and see where you messed up. If you have messed up, try to figure out the grammatical concept at work in a sentence. What are they testing you on? All right. That's the question that I want you guys asking yourselves anytime you take a random quiz and do well or not do well. Oh, and I just remembered I was supposed to look at that attorney's quiz that I forgot for this week. Darn it. I'll try that for next week. I'm going to make a big old note to myself. In English. I got some.
Kelly, I have a question. On this test that you're mentioning, the Spanish, are there other tests, or that's the only test, the one you posted?
I think there were like 5 different versions. And we're going to go over one of them today. And then we can look and see if there are other versions or where to find them exactly. But yes, I'm pretty sure there's other versions. And the way I found this test is that we're actually going to use this person's work when we're working on synonyms and antonyms, because she has a Kindle book. Even if you don't have a little Kindle, you can still download the book and access it on your computer, on your phone. And it's 30, I think, 10 question tests on synonyms and antonyms with really hard words. So it's awesome. And it was only like $3. So I was really excited when I found that. And then when I started looking at the work that she's put online for free, I found all this. So, whew, I love this lady. But go get stuff wrong. When you get stuff wrong, try to figure out what you're being quizzed on. Then look into that grammatical concept, or come to me and ask about the grammatical concept. Then turn that into a flashcard, review your flashcards, and retake the exam and focus specifically on those terms. So this, again, is going to be posted online so that you can access these links if you don't already have them. But here we are at the Test de Oposiciones. I believe these are from Spain, and I think these are like professional level or college level type entrance exams. So I love them because you're quizzed kind of over the finest points of Spanish grammar. So let's just go through them together. Number 11. Señala la frase incorrectamente escrita. So we've got, a unos tristes conseguirán animarse con esta película. I'm trying to make them really big so you guys can see them. There we go. Yeah. Okay. No supones qué ha sucedido después. Tu primo aún no ha venido. ¿Cuánto ha llovido ayer? Qué barbaridad. All right. Which one's incorrect? A from Priscilla.
I would go with B. No supones que haya sucedido después.
Ah, okay. So you were reading it as a possible subjunctive indicative. The
Yes.
one that's incorrectly written is A, and it's because it's a quiz over aún. It's there's an aún that has an accent and an aún that doesn't. And that is something that's confusing to native speakers just as it is to people who have learned Spanish in school. The only way that I've ever been able to remember the difference is that aún with an accent means todavía, which also has an accent. So accent with accent. All right? So in letter C, tu primo aún no ha venido, you could substitute this aún with todavía, which has an accent. So this is written correctly. Letter A, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I think you're going to answer my question.
Okay, letter A, aún los tristes conseguirán animarse con esa película.
Oh,
You cannot substitute todavía here because you're not trying to say still. You're going for the other meaning of aún, which is even. Okay, so even sad people will manage to become happy at that movie. This, the even aún, does not take an accent. And so that's why it's written as that. That's why it's considered incorrect here. I'll tell you now, I do think that the question about aún versus aún with and an aún without an accent, is likely to show up on the exam precisely because it's confusing and easy to forget. And it's also easy to skip. It's easy to skip over. That's fine. It's just a little word and we're looking for bigger concepts. So that's one of the reasons that it's a good one to keep in mind. Okay, so number 2, these types of questions aren't on here. They are on this quiz because diphthongs, diphthongos, they dictate spelling rules. So we're taught specifically about diphthongs in class when, as a native Spanish speaker. So it goes in with the rules of acentuación y todo. So what you need for a diphthong is una vocal débil y una fuerte. So I started reading a little bit about that, and I found this resource, ejemplo de, and it talks about different kinds of diphthongs: crecientes, decrecientes, comedia, tierra, piojo, fuego, residuo. This is how you figure out, by understanding how diphthongs work, it's how you figure out that you say comedia and not comedia, or residuo and not residuo, because these two vowels, a weak one and a strong one, blend together and become one sound, basically. So if you want to read more about that, I have the link to this page in the PowerPoint that we're looking at tonight. So you can read up about it and then sort of work on getting a sense of how to spell things. That's basically what diphthongs are for, and how to pronounce things. All right. So here we have an example of what would be a diphthong without an accent mark. Okay. So raer, which I'm gonna have to look up what that even means. And one thing I should point out is that I took the exam twice. So just because I don't recognize a word, don't take that as, okay, I'm safe, that one's not on the exam. I think there's 10 different copies of the exam, and I have a bad memory. So even if this particular question was on the exam, it's likely that I don't remember it. So anyway, this question, la segunda persona del singular del pretérito plusculamperfecto del indicativo ante copretérito those types of questions are not on this exam that we're taking either, but we will possibly have to apply them. So indicative is the opposite of subjunctive. So we know immediately that we're not going to be doing anything with hubieras because that's subjunctive and they're asking for the opposite. Okay? Raer means to scrape, and the pluscuamperfecto is habías raído. Pluscuamperfecto is the past perfect tense. So had scraped is basically what this is saying. And raído, if it weren't for, if this little accent mark weren't here, then we'd be looking at a diphthong and it would be just a one-syllable word, raído. But because we need to have to conserve the sound of the verb raer, we have to have that accent mark in there, raído. So that's why that's kind of an interesting one. Very, very technical. Let's see here. Señala la frase escrita incorrectamente. Number 5. So we've got, no entiendo por qué no has querido venir. 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 Which one's incorrect?
Oh, incorrect? Okay.
Incorrect according to this one. I'm not going to lie. I kind of thought all of them were incorrect. So let's click on this. ¿Por qué? Test de oposiciones. Got it? Okay. Here she has, or whoops. Sorry, I took you back. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? So, ¿por qué? Puede utilizarse como conjunción casual o como conjunción final. ¿Por qué? Por causa o por razón de. Porque es bajo, no quiere jugar baloncesto. No ha venido porque estaba de viaje. ¿Por qué? Written like this is the same as because. Because. All right? Hizo lo posible porque no sufriese. It's like saying, ¿para qué? So you can use that porque in both ways. So if you see a sentence like hizo lo posible porque no sufriese in the exam, on the exam, then it's correct because porque and para qué can, according to this author, be interchangeable. All right? ¿Por qué? With an accent. El hecho de que se acentúe, el vocal sustantivo. So this is saying the reason for. This is like the, say in English, the why behind. Cuéntame el porqué de tu falta al trabajo. Oh, there we go. So cuéntame el porqué. Porqué together with an accent mark is always a noun, I guess. Todo en la vida tiene su porqué. So if that's the rule, if porqué with an accent mark is always a noun, then this would be the one that's incorrect. No? Oh, no.
That
one would be the one
right?
that's incorrect, right? What?
Oh, so it would have to be no entiendo el porqué. Right. So that, that would be incorrect.
I wonder if this is supposed to say la frase escrita correctamente, which to me would be B. No entiendo por qué no has querido venir. I bet this is a poorly written question, don't you guys? Because
I think so.
This has to be wrong based on her own explanation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we need to write, I think her name is Ana, but I'm not sure. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué se utiliza en oraciones interrogativas o exclamativas? It's like saying why. So yeah, that's the only one that's correct. The other ones are incorrect.
Okay.
Anyway, whew, now we know. I still think this explanation is very valuable. So come here and whoopsies and try to digest it. The way you will get to that is by going to the slideshow that we were using today and clicking on the test gratis oposiciones, or you can find it on Facebook, and that will take you to this quiz.
Okay.
Okay. Un antónimo de enardecimiento es. Un antónimo de enardecimiento es.
D.
D. Correcto.
Wow.
Enardecimiento, what does that mean?
Like you're very exalted or
Yeah. Good job using the synonym.
You're very what?
exalted, like
Exalted? Okay.
Like, I think it's like worked up, working up. Enardecimiento. Enardecidos, like worked up. So sosiego.
See, I saw the arduo, meaning hard, right? Like you're very hardened. Would it have anything to do with that or no?
Oh, like
Es un trabajo arduo. Or no tiene nada que ver entonces.
Tal vez no. We'd have to investigate a little bit further.
Okay.
And remember that this is asking about the antonym, which fortunately we do not have to worry about on the exam. At the state level, we do. They still have antonyms and synonyms, and half the time people fail because they forget. They just did 200 synonyms, and now they're asked to do 200 antonyms. We don't have to worry about that. We only do synonyms, but enardecimiento and then sosiego. Sosiego is like peace. So enardecimiento is the opposite of peace, like chaos. For some reason, the only word that's coming to my mind is worked up. Perdón, I'll work on my synonyms. All right. So the book that we're going to be working out of when we start working on Spanish vocab to improve ourselves for the synonym antonym section is like this. It's basically just 10 questions, 30 different chapters, and there's no context. On the exam, sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. So anyway, this feeling of, I don't know, I'm going to analyze it, I'm going to see what I can do, that we may feel that way on the day of the exam. Okay, this was totally out of left field for me, which might point you towards the answer. First of all, superlativo, do you know what that is?
Yeah, the superlative, the
most, the greatest, the S form.
So it's like grande, grandissimo.
Correcto.
So I would say it's A, integrissimo.
Integrísimo. Sí. Other guesses?
C.
We know for sure it's not B because there's no accent there. So the way that B is written, it would be, oh yeah, and they're missing a second syllable, so it's integrismo, which is not even a word. So that's nice. Okay, integerrimo is a superlative form of íntegro. So it is an irregular superlative form. Write it down and drill it. There's no other way to lock this into your head, but one thing that we are tested on the exam is our control of irregular verb forms. So if I were a test writer and I found this, I'd be like, that's a great idea to put on the exam. Who knows if they actually do or will, but the way that this is used. So this is one of those that's kind of I don't know if it's archaic or if it's just not common, but I had trouble finding examples of how it's used in context online. So the best I could do was to find that to say, él es una persona íntegra would translate to he is an upright individual, or he's an upright person in English. So then if you wanted to say he's a super duper upright person, you could say, él es una persona integérrima. I suspect you would pull that out at a party to like impress people with how fancy you are. Not, I don't think it's probably something you'd hear day to day, but now we know. All right. This was also an interesting point, and I think it's a good one to add into your flashcards. ¿Cuál de los siguientes no es un adjetivo ordinal? Quinto, onceavo, trigésimo, décimo, sexto. Adjetivo ordinal.
I'd say B, onceavo.
Onceavo. Okay. Other guesses? Going with B?
Yeah.
The answer is B.
Finally, I get one right.
Man, you got it.
Yay.
Okay, I think who's counting? This is something I know that native speakers confuse, because I have a colleague who talks about the fact that we're on el onceavo piso. But when I got to this question and started investigating, no, that's not the right one. Ejemplos, where did it go? I found, maybe I lost it. I found an explanation of ordinal and I think it's partitive adjectives. So there's I must have lost it on here, but okay. So if we want to talk about things that are in order, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever, then we're doing primero, segundo, tercero, cuarto, quinto, sexto, séptimo, octavo, noveno, décimo, undécimo is what that example would have said if we were trying to list nothing but ordinal adjectives. Okay, ordinal numbers. Undécimo instead of onceavo. The tricky thing is that both of those translate as 11th in English, but ordinal means we're talking about the order something goes in. So if we're trying to say the 11th chapter in Spanish, we say el undécimo capítulo or el décimo primero. That both of those are acceptable, but we do not say el onceavo capítulo. Why? Because onceavo is a partitive adjective, meaning that it is used to designate an equal part of something. So if you want to say you ate the 11th slice of pizza, then you say la onceava rebanada de pizza. La onceava parte. All right? But el décimo primero niño en esa familia. Because you're talking about who's in order, not an equal piece. I thought that was an interesting distinction, and it's not one that's routinely drilled into our heads, so it's a good exception to try to write down and keep in our brains in time for the exam. Okay? All right. So now that's what it feels like to take this test de oposiciones online para estudiantes y opositores, basically written for people working on taking entrance exams in Spain. If that was a good fit for you, this is, I'm looking at the website trying to find test gratis. I thought there was a number. a number of exams, not just the one.
Yeah, I took a number of exams on this site.
Okay.
I don't know
For whatever reason, I must have come directly to it. Océanos Cultura, 20 preguntas de cultura. Test oposiciones de correos, cultura general. Well, just poke around and see if you can find. It's funny. It's a European site, so they always have to warn you about cookies. Well, we don't have to do that here. Anyway, dig around on that website and put yourself through some more of those tests and follow that procedure where you try to identify, okay, what concepts are they asking me about? And then drill yourself on that so that you can recognize those concepts in all of their various forms on the day of your test. All right. Okay, I am so sad to say I did not recall that I had promised I'd work on the grammar test for attorneys. So I have that big on my list now. I feel bad, so I won't forget it. So in its place, I wanted to review in English some commonly confused words from that blue book of grammar. All right. Amicable and amiable were two that I think of as higher level vocab. These could maybe show up in synonym form on the exam. They could show up possibly as a grammar question. This is a good segue for me to remind you about the words that I've been posting online on Facebook. So you may have been getting, Kelly posted such and such thing on my Interpreting Coach Facebook page, and you go, and it's me asking you a question using a fancy word. The theory for me behind that is similar to the theory of the idioms. There is just such a huge body of upper level words, both in Spanish and in English, that it's an impossible task to expect ourselves to know all of them on the day of the exam in both languages. But slow exposure to the concepts can't hurt. And so basically what I'm asking you to do on Facebook when I post those fancy terms is exactly what some of you have been doing. You read it, you look at it, you either know what it means or you figure out what it means, and then you answer it. So, for example, if I were to have used amicable and amiable online, I may have answered, I may have asked this question, are you able to have an amicable exchange with a disagreeable person? So your job would just be to answer that in the comments. Hopefully in a way that shows you know what this means. So if you're like my 14-year-old son, then, you know, your answer would be no or yes, you know, much to the dismay of your English teacher. But since we're all working hard and trying to pass this test, what would your answer to this be? Are you able to have an amicable exchange with a disagreeable person? How do you think you could answer that in English? Maritza, if you want to type your answer, that works. I can read it for everybody.
So I'm just supposed to use it. I'm just supposed to answer the question, right?
Yeah,
yes, I feel that I can have an amicable exchange, especially related to, I hope that I had an amicable divorce, even though he was a very disagreeable person.
Excellent. You've been through an amicable divorce.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That is quite an achievement. Amicable is a word we often hear with the word of divorce, all right? But it is not a word that we should hear to talk about the person that we divorced. We wouldn't say, I had an amicable divorce because I got a divorce from an amicable person. That's the distinction in between these two words.
Amiable would be the opposite of disagreeable, really. I mean, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it would be, well, amable in Spanish.
Right.
amiable. Yeah, an amiable person. He's easy to get along with. He's agradable.
And just like in Spanish, you wouldn't necessarily talk about un divorcio amable, right? So that's the tiny nuance there. Where I suppose if this were going to be a test question, you would have a bunch of context, and then one of the underlined words would be, after her amiable divorce, fulana de tal took a trip to Paris, or whatever. You would know that amiable has to describe people.
Yes.
Amicable describes events.
Describes the situation.
Okay, exactly. So I might say here, yes, I can have an amicable exchange with disagreeable people, especially about superficial topics like the weather, and especially because I'm from the Midwest and we are experts in amicable exchanges. We're actually very uncomfortable with anything but that. That would probably be my answer to that question. Who is the most amiable among your family members? Not the person that Darcy divorced, ¿verdad? No.
The most amiable is my 5-year-old daughter, Lola, because she is very easy to get along with.
Excellent. Muy bien. Priscilla, among your kids, who's the most amiable?
I think my little one also.
Kids, I think they probably go through a time where they are less amiable in middle school, high school, and then they get back to being amiable, hopefully, as adults, hopefully. Yeah. All right. So that's the confusion that comes up between those two words. Amicable is events, amiable is people. All right. Affect, effect. One thing that I heard Darcy do that's a good strategy that we have as speakers of two languages is you basically, when you were faced with a confusing term, you put the term in your other language, and all of a sudden, like, the confusion kind of melted away. We can do the same thing here, with affect and effect. All right? These get confusing because we've got a verb form and we've got a noun form, and, when should we use when? But it becomes a little bit clearer when we think about them in Spanish. Affect is afectar. Effect would be efectuar, or simply efecto. All right? In the words of our author of that skinny little textbook, we can remember affect as a verb meaning to influence. So if it shows up as a noun, it has only a technical meaning to describe your emotional state. Okay? So you're not going to want to say the effects with an A. The effects of the news were terrible for me, because that's incorrect in Spanish. In English, good Lord, to say the effects of that news was awful, you would say the effect with an E. Because if you're trying to use effect as a noun, you can only use it in a very technical sense. Effect, if you're using that as a noun, it means results. And if you're using it as a verb, it means to bring about, like effectuar. Okay? So basically, if you couldn't translate it as efectuar in Spanish, don't use effect. Or if you can't translate it as efecto in Spanish, don't use effect with an E. And if you can't translate it as afectar in Spanish, don't use effect with an A. So there we go. Those kind of make more sense when we think about leaning on our second language as a crutch. So One question I might post on Facebook about this would be, how is the news about the FCIC phase 2 mess? Phase 2 is the oral exam. How has that affected you? The reason it's not with an E in this question is because I'm not saying, ¿y cómo le ha efectuado las noticias del examen federal fase 2? That makes no sense in Spanish. So, ¿cómo le ha afectado o impactado? That makes sense. So you leave it as effect with an A.
Okay.
Makes sense. So if you see effect or effect underlined as a possible error in one of the grammar sections on the test, put it to the opposite language test. Does this make sense as efectuar, efecto? Does this make sense as afectar? And if so, then look at the other options. If not, then there you have it. That's your error.
Got it.
Okay. Oh, and this would be maybe an example of how to use the verb form of effect in English. What change should we work to effect in our industry at the national level? ¿Qué cambios deberíamos trabajar para efectuar en nuestra industria al nivel nacional? All right. Now, final one before I let you ladies go tonight. Lay and lie. I'm not going to lie to you. Again, as a Midwesterner, this for me is worse than who and whom.
It's
just
hard for me too.
It's not a distinction that was really made in my home. We just kind of understood. The trouble with this comes from the fact that the past tense of lie with one of its meanings, I believe, is lay. So then that's where we get all confused. Priscilla, Maritza, are these confusing words for you? Or have you come up with some kind of magic trick to help them to be correct all the time? Because if you have, let me know what it is.
It's confusing for me also, laid and lane, when you have to either use lane or laid.
Okay, so all of their different conjugations, and Maritza's only trick is just memorizing them. So I think that is what it comes down to with a lot of stuff. I do recommend for my strong English speakers as well as my Spanish speakers who find English to be their weaker language to take a look at our Blue Grammar Book Ladies explanation. If I were a test writer, this might be something I would put on the exam precisely because I know it's such a nightmare for everybody. All right. First of all, we want to eliminate the possibility that we're talking about the word mentira or mentir. That one's pretty easy to figure out because, you don't say I lay yesterday if you're trying to say you told a lie yesterday. Then it's just regularly conjugate. I lie today, I lied yesterday, I will lie tomorrow. So we can kind of eliminate that one as part of the confusion. And we have to figure out the confusion that comes from lie, which means to rest or recline, or lay, which is to put or to place. Okay? From what I understand, and this would be a good thing to make into a flashcard and drill it, Priscilla, is that lane is only used with lie. Lane is the past participle of lie, meaning rest or recline. Okay? So if you're trying to say, I want to lie down, or I have lain down on my bed every day for 20 minutes for a month, then it's lain. All right? If you're trying to say, I rested on my bed yesterday with this verb, you would say, I lay. That's why it gets confusing. Okay? So lie, if we had to say it, the rest or recline, how would we say lie in Spanish? Perhaps this will help it make a little more sense for us.
Acostar.
Acostar. And so, I lie down today. Yo me acuesto. And we could draw this out on a chart. Me acuesto equals I lie down. Okay? Me acosté ayer. How do you say that in English?
I laid down yesterday.
I lay down yesterday, okay? Yep, exactly. So, me acosté, L-A-Y. I lay. Me he acostado, I have lain down. All right? But then we have lay, L-A-Y, as in to put or place, what's a verb we could use to straighten this out in our brains in Spanish? Lay would be like?
Colocar or no?
Colocar. Yeah, I think so. I think we can think of it in that way. So, if we're trying to say, I lay the books down on my table every morning, yo coloco los libros en la mesa todos los días, todas las mañanas. Coloco, lay. Then we have laid as the simple past tense, and this is the verb also that laid comes into play for the present, the past participle. So I laid the books down on the table yesterday, and I have laid the books down on that table every day for months. Those are in Spanish, yo coloqué los libros allí ayer, or he colocado los libros allí por 5 meses. Okay? So lean on your other language to make sense of these, and I'm hoping this will help me as well. I lie down, I lay down, I have lain down, me acuesto, me acosté, me he acostado. Lay those things down, you laid them down, you have laid them down, yo coloco, yo coloqué, o tú colocaste, o los has colocado. That's definitely flashcard worthy. For me.
Yeah, for me too.
Yes, it's just so easy to forget.
It's so easy to forget. So was that in the quiz for the attorneys?
Yes,
quiz,
I got that one wrong.
Okay. Well, then for next week we'll be ahead of the game. So I'm going to try to devise a question or two that would mimic what you might see on the exam using some of the trickier constructions of that. I have noticed that Harry Potter books use this word infuriatingly well. Like I feel like I'd never heard the word lay used that much. And I think probably what I do incorrectly is that for me, I lie down. I never say I lie down today. I always say I lay down. I'm going to go lay down, always. And then it would, oh my gosh, Minnie. Then it would be I laid down yesterday. So, sorry, my crazy dog. Just a second. Anyway, there is sometimes a void between what we say at home and what is considered correct. For better or for worse, we're quizzed on what's considered correct on this test. So we have to force ourselves to meet that standard. All right? Okay, what questions do you guys have for me?
Not a question, but I know Dwayne at the very beginning, I don't think he's in this group any longer, but he recommended Cram. It is amazing. I have developed so many flashcards using Cram of synonyms.
Oh,
and
great.
All kinds of, it's really, really helpful. So I recommend it to everyone here.
That's wonderful. Yes, Dwayne went to Switzerland and took part in the mock UN conference.
Yes.
was in touch with me during all that. And then when he came back, he said, I want to join back up, but so much was going on with school. So hopefully we'll be able to catch him when things slow back down. But if I get any messages from him, I'll let him know that CRAM is working really well. That's great.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, we'll be in touch in a week. I'll continue checking in with you. Priscilla, I'm going to take a look right now at the reading exercises on the exam, and we will go from there. All right?
Thank you.
Okay, ladies. Thanks for coming tonight. You have a good rest of your week.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Bye.
Bye-bye.